Well, actually, I wanted to do an injury thing. Is AB okay? You had mentioned the tendonitis was the reason why you pulled him and thought that it wasn't going to be a big deal.
It's calming down a little bit. Probably not ready for this game, but close. Those aren't long-term like ACLs, so it's an overuse issue.
And then also off of that game, you had mentioned that you wanted to give the players a mental health break, and that was before it became an even more national stage as far as Simone Biles and such. But is that something that you watch out for? Is that a new thing that you've watched out for in terms of your team? Like, when did you start really?
Ever since we've taken over, even Ziggy was good about it. I think Bruce Arena's very good at it. You get a feel for what your athletes are thinking, going through. They get physically tired. Sometimes you can measure that based on their performances. But it's harder to know your players, understand your players on the mental side of things. But that's pretty common, pretty standard practice. You just get a feel that they're a little bit tired mentally. They need days off. A lot of them have family, kids, so they need time with their families. You got to just try and find the right balance. It's mainly common sense, but certainly it's an important, as everybody found out about the national and international headlines. It's a big deal.
And so when you took over 2016 kind of thing, you made it like, do you have a sports psychologist?
We have not had a sports psychologist, no.
Is that something you kind of play by feel, like you can just sense like a mood, or is there like little things that you see that maybe crop up that...
You ask questions, Jeremiah. You're always asking the players how they feel, how they're doing. You, by feel, the visual test, you see their body language, if it's like this versus like this. I mean, there's plenty of clues. It's not a perfect science.
Brian, how much have you paid attention to that? I'm assessing that in the last 3 or 4 years, the backdrops of the kids, and you talk about you as a leader showing that to your players, because you talk about your family and those kind of things as an example of there's more to it than just
Well, I mean, look, Gonzo has kids, Jimmy has kids, Preki has adult children. We're all fathers. We've all grown up with kids that are 15, 16, 19, 30, 31. Some of us have, 30, 35-year-old children. So we get it. I mean, you got to strike a right balance, work to family. So we try and do that.
On striking the right balance, tomorrow, how much has been the message of the team about staying focused about tomorrow? Not the last 3 games, not the next 3 games, but just tomorrow.
We've finally, we're firmly past last week.
Speaking of, oh, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I just meant just in terms of, it's not even about last week, but how you guys have always talked about the next game that's at hand.
Again, that's something that we've been pretty consistent in our messaging throughout our tenure here as coaches. I mean, it is always about the next game. It's about the next man up. Those are those corny coaches' sayings, but we believe in those sayings. We totally believe that. It actually has to be not something we believe, but it has to be something that the players believe. So the deal is always, when you have some young kids getting some extended minutes because we have injuries, it's take these opportunities, learn from them, grow from them. Your objective, go out on the field, give us everything that you have. Everything, from here with your legs, everything. And then when you're tired, it's okay. We'll just bring the next guy on, and he's going to do the same thing. And that is a foundation, one of the building blocks that we have for being a successful group of players.
Some of the Kansas City players described San Jose as dirty. What do you think about, how would you describe their play?
I don't describe them as dirty. No, they are a hard team. They take on the personality of their coach. Their coach was a winner when he was a player, very, very talented player. His system is designed man-for-man marking. It's not an easy system to either coach or to play against. So sometimes those games, physical contests, physical duels are there. His team's not dirty.
So Nico out here today, was that the most that he's been able to do, or what's his status?
You're putting a smile on my face, Jeremiah. We're actually doing physical testing with him to see if he can make the next jump. He's worked hard. He's been involved in some of the soccer and some of the trainings. He's looking good.
And how about Will?
Will's great. He'll be involved tomorrow.
You've mentioned wanting to put your best squad out for the matchup against Tigres. Could that be a target date for Nico at all?
I don't want to put a target date out there yet, but he does look good. He does look very good.
What does having Will, Nico, and Steph, and some of those guys coming back do to the energy of the group out there?
Yeah, it always lifts the group when you get guys back from injury. I mean, I heard your question to Steph Cleveland. Yeah, Steph Fry's a big part of our franchise, one of the captains of the team. Nico's the same. So you get that little bump, that little presence, that professionalism. Raises the level of training, for sure.
You went through this period where you were calling in a bunch of academy kids to actually join the first team roster, and as you get healthier, presumably those opportunities will be harder to come by. And how do you balance the sort of the highs for them of getting into the first team with the reality of you still got to earn everything you do at the Defiance, and maybe you'll be back, but we can't really, that's not necessarily up to you?
It's a great question because that's a big discussion amongst, the technical staff. How do we take what we've seen? Because remember, we do have a roster spot available for a young kid. So that we might sign someone there if they deserve it, if they earn it. And there's guys that Jeremiah have earned that. They've earned the right to be in that conversation. When they go down to Defiance, I'm going to change the language there. When they play for Defiance, they're not going down, they're playing for Defiance because Wade's done a really good job. You guys watched the game last night. Okay, it was a good victory. But what I liked is the spirit of the team. Okay, I didn't like the red card at the end of the game, but even that, maybe there's some coachable moments there for Eric. But I love the way Wade is getting his team ready to play at the same level of expectations as the first team. I love it.
I watched that Defiance game yesterday, and I'm wondering how much of that difference, because it's very easy to see. They're much more competitive now than they've probably ever been. But is that a technical difference, or is that really just a belief or some sort of less tangible thing that is driving them?
I think there's a ton of answers to your question. We could talk about that for a long time. It's guys that have been there for a while that know they need to perform or they're going to be moved on. It's a crop of young guys that are super talented. It's Wade's coaching, his messaging. I mean, there's a lot of factors there. I thought Andrew Thomas, to get a shout out to the goalkeeping core. I know Cleveland was up here. I mean, he's done well. I mean, Herrera's decent. There's competition for that spot. There's competition in multiple spots down at Defiance. So they have to raise the level of their game if they want to play at Defiance, with Defiance. Nuhu's not out here. Nuhu is not out here. That's my update. That's the toughest one for us to solve.
You're still in kind of the middle of this injury, this injury situation. Historically, looking back at since you've been the head coach, and even in 2015 when you guys had injuries, is this the worst you guys have seen as far as kind of the number of injuries and kind of the nature of the injuries?
The nature of the injuries, who the injuries are, the amount of injuries, it's been by far since 2009. I'm trying to read lips through a mask.
Are there any other youth to veteran relationships that
What do you mean, youth to veteran?
Like any veterans becoming big brothers to.
They all do.
Any relationships that
They
you'd
all
like
do.
to see.
They all do. I mean, this particular group of players is here. Last year was a good year. I mean, we've got good character in the locker room for sure.